How's it going, everybody? Welcome to Glen Helen Raceway. This is RacerXOnline.com, and you guys are staring at something pretty cool today. So we're going to try to keep kids on dirt bikes here. We're with Yamaha Motor Corporation, and you're looking at a 2022 YZ85 and YZ85LW. To the left of me is Mike Ulrich. He is representing Yamaha today, and we're going to talk a little bit about each bike here. But what's really cool, new to the Yamaha arsenal, is the LW line. So, Mike, I'm going to give you this mic and just give us an overview of each bike here.
Yeah, so we have the YZ85 LW, which is first year model for us. So brand new model. Both the 85 and 85 LW got all brand new bodywork. We basically redid the bike in 2019 with brand new engines, some chassis mods, suspension upgrades, new fork, new brakes. So a lot of changes back in 2019, but the one kind of knock against it was that it really didn't look any different. It still had the same bodywork as before. So for this year, we kind of remedied that, put on brand new bodywork on both models. One benefit with the bodywork that we noticed with our big bikes, the YZ250 two-stroke, even though the engine didn't get an upgrade, with the new bodywork and especially the way the intake brings the air into the engine, it gave us improved throttle response, and the YZ85 benefits from that as well. So the way the air is channeled under the seat into the airbox really helps to improve throttle response and running down low. So specifically to the YZ85 LW, obviously LW stands for large wheels, so it has the larger wheels. We offer this as a GYTR kit in the past, but now this year we made a whole separate model, and it makes it a little bit easier step from going from an YZ85 to a YZ125. So a little more natural for the growing kids. Some of the upgrades to between the two bikes, the LW has a stiffer suspension setting, stiffer fork springs, as well as the internal settings, as well as obviously the bigger wheels and a longer swing arm.
All right, what also is pretty cool, I have my test rider here, Grayson Townsend. He normally rides a different colored brand, but I want him to get on these bikes and really see what the differences are. And he's getting ready to step up to a large wheel, so I think this will really be a good test for you kids out there maybe trying to move from an 85 to a larger wheel 85. This will be a great test. But I also respect that Yamaha still keeps to innovate and do the R&D work on the mini bike side. There's no other Japanese manufacturer that is currently evolving 85s. So, Mike, how important it is to Yamaha to keep kids on dirt bikes. It's kind of the thing that I've been pushing lately. This is the future of our sport. These are the people that are going to be on these bikes when we're old and maybe can't ride, but gives us a snippet about what Yamaha wants to do with these bikes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, some years back we introduced the YZ65. That was kind of our plan to make a stepping stone from the PW50, getting little kids started on a PW50, you know, showing them how fun and easy it is to ride, then have a bike to step up to, and obviously progressing and improving the bikes to make them competitive is very important to us to keep the kids evolving and being able to step up to the next level.
Keep those kids off video games. I mean, it's fine to play video games at night, but like, let's get them outside. Let's get them, you know, with the families. I've spent a lot of time with my son traveling the races, just going to these tracks, and I don't think I could have done that without dirt bikes. So we're going to bring Grayson in here and talk about why he likes to ride, and also his dad, and why they chose motorcycling as their way to be outdoors and connect with one another. All right, number 87, Grayson Townsend is my guy today. You tested another brand of bike. There was a large wheel, and now you're back on. You're the test rider of the mini bike world right now.
Yeah, it's really cool.
So how excited are you to ride these two bikes today, and could you sleep last night? What's more exciting for you, Christmas Eve or the night before you get to ride some new bikes?
Probably the night before you get to ride new bikes.
Yeah. So all right, so you're here. You got two new bikes to ride today. I was informed from your dad that you were just going to be a trail rider. Now you're a full-blown racer. You just got home from a Mammoth qualifier. You're going to Loretta's. You're at the top of your class right now. I feel like you're doing really, really good. why do you like riding dirt bikes so much?
It's fun. You get to rail ruts and
Hang out with your buddies?
yeah, that's cool too.
So for me, I love throwing a nice whip over a jump. That's some of the most fun that I could have ever in my life. So what's more fun, throwing a nice whip over a double or railing the perfect rut?
Railing the perfect rut.
As adults, you know, you leave the track and you have that feeling of, you know, you just nailed a couple corners. That feeling stays with us, at least for me, for a good week. When you're driving home with your mom and dad from Southern California back to Utah and you're thinking about riding dirt bikes, how long does that fun feeling stay within you?
Probably till we get home.
And then you're like ready to ride again?
Yeah.
So it's pretty simple with kids, folks. They like to have fun. They want to be safe. That's number one for parents. And for me, it keeps them out of trouble. Like, are you a good kid?
Yeah, I think so.
We're going to ask his dad here in a minute, but look for this guy. He's going to Mammoth, going to Loretta's. Are we going to win a championship this year?
Yes.
He's calling it out. Watch out, Vincent Way. All right, I got Grayson's father here. Look, I know the struggle. I'm in it right now. So what you just told me, you guys were just planning to go and do this for fun, trail riding, and now you're deep in this amateur world. So for one, for the people out there listening, why did you guys get into the sport?
I grew up just play riding, and then my brother and I started racing, and then, you know, once you start racing, it just takes over your life for the good. It's given me everything. My wife I met through racing, my business, our livelihood, our friends, our family. The common bond, like generationally through families, is just so cool. It's something, you know, grandparents share, the kids share. You know, grandma has something to talk to her grandkids about. It's just so, there's so much bigger than just motorcycling. It gives you, to us, it's given us everything. It's the biggest thing in our life since we started riding.
Yeah, for me, like, it's a lifestyle, right? Like, we all love to ride. We buy a motorcycle and we go out riding with our dads, or, you know, we go racing. And that's the same thing with me. Me and my dad and my family, we went out camping, and we just did this as a family because we stayed together. We went riding, and then we come home. My dad went to work and I went to school, and we would look forward to camping and riding over the weekend. And then it evolves over time.
Yep.
And then your kids start to like it a lot more. Obviously, Grayson is really good at his age right now, but then you find yourself going to these races, and then you find yourself getting a little bit more competitive. But the key thing is, it kept me out of trouble.
For sure.
So give us a little bit of, what is Grayson like at home? Does he have some goals? For me and my child, like, it teaches him responsibility.
Huge responsibility, work ethic, grit, determination. For Grayson, especially when he was little, he was super wild and a lot to handle. So racing, it took a lot of energy out of him. It gave him some real focus. It gave us something to hold him accountable. If he didn't behave properly, then he didn't get to ride motorcycles. So it's a great parenting tool for developing a kid into a man. It makes you a man. It makes you tough mentally, makes you tough physically. The resiliency, I think, is the biggest thing, because usually when you race, you lose, but you cannot wait to get back to the track the next week to try again. And that just carries through your whole life. I've seen it in all my friends and my family, my brother growing up. I mean, big disappointments in life and how quickly you bounce back. It's learned from motocross.
Yeah, man, that's great. Like, I couldn't put any better. Like, for me, it made me grow up quicker, taught me responsibility, how to create relationships. So it's just not a motorcycle. It's a tool for life. Yes, the flip side of that, it is dangerous. And how does your family deal with that side of safety and everything with him?
Yeah, so I was really reluctant early on to let them race, or just I knew how much it gave us, but you know how much it can take away. But I've just focused on technique and fundamentals and putting them in the safest spot on the bike. And if you're going to ride motorcycles, you need to do it correctly. And if you're not committed to doing it correctly, you shouldn't do it. So I'm really very hard on that. And, you know, both my boys are very good riders because of that. And I feel in the safest position possible, but things can and do happen. But, you know, working on the proper technique and fundamentals, getting good schooling and coaching so you're as safe as possible and your ceiling as high as possible. it's the biggest thing to being safe.
I wasn't that close with my dad because my dad worked really hard. He worked about 75 miles away, so I didn't get to spend a lot of time with him during the week. But on the weekends, that's when we got close together, and that was through dirt bikes. And I see a lot of that at the track. So I appreciate that my 16-year-old son actually wants to spend time with me, and I'm sure that's the same thing for you.
For sure. Yeah, the family relationship is so huge. I mean, my parents were at the races yesterday. Both the boys' grandparents, they travel all around the country watching. It's generational. It's just something, it's a common interest that we all love. And, you know, not all families have that. We always have something to talk about, to watch, to root for, and common goals and bonds. It's huge. And the quality of kids coming out of racing, growing up to be adults, it just teaches you so much responsibility. It makes you so productive. There's a difference, I'd say, between my friends that were moto people and friends that weren't, and just their character and just their commitment to success is so high.
So like I said, keep kids on dirt bikes. We'll be back. We're going to talk about the 2022 YZ85 and YZ85LW. So stay tuned. Guys, Grayson just got off the track here at Glen Helen Raceway. If you're familiar with Glen Helen, we actually rode the REM track today. It's a little shorter of a track, not as long as the national track. Not as many hills, maybe one hill, but this guy right here put some time on it. Let's start with the large wheel since you're not that familiar with the large wheel. A little bit tough to get used to. You mentioned that it's a little bit harder to corner than your other bike.
Yeah, I think because the wheelbase is longer and it's just up higher, it's not as comfortable to corner for me.
Yeah, so if you have a child that's maybe going to a large wheel, you're going to have to probably accept the fact that it's going to be a little bit heavier and a little bit different to corner. So when you go to bigger wheels, what we call initial lean will be a little bit tougher than the smaller wheel. So just know that it's going to take some practice, take some time. I'm sure if he had more than a day on the bike, he'd be better off, but that's just something to be noted, and he mentioned that to me, and I thought that I could relate to you guys out there. All right, so one thing I thought was interesting, you're normally a hydraulic clutch rider on a KTM, but you actually like this cable pull.
The hydraulic clutch just feels like it kind of goes out a little bit, and this just, you get more feel with this. I think it's better. Yeah,
so for me, that's a great word that Grayson used. I get a little bit more feel through the clutch without a hydraulic clutch, just because it's a little bit more linear. A hydraulic clutch is a little bit more on and on off, and he mentioned that to me. He's like, I kind of think I like a cable clutch. And when he did test another bike with the cable clutch, he did like that as well. So another point we need to mention is the rider triangle. How tall are you?
5 foot.
85 pounds, 5 foot. So you mentioned, he came in and said, I feel like the rider triangle is short but tall. So explain that to the people out there.
So the seat is, it feels pretty cramped there, and then the bars feel pretty tall, like with the mounts.
So yeah, we were talking about maybe if they could split the mount and maybe drop the bar a little bit, or just go to a flatter bar, that'll help the triangle for him being 5 foot. The beauty of it is can do that with the Yamaha. You can change that out. You can drop the bar down a little bit, so that'll help that out. All right, the engine spec, you're normally on a different colored bike, but you hopped on this. How's the power compare?
It runs out of gear faster, but the power's pretty good. You have to downshift coming into the corners more, but it's got good power.
So yeah, so what this comes with is a 1451 gearing on the large wheel. They got to change the gearing obviously for the wheels and the swing arm. So you're going up in gearing. So what he's saying is second gear's pretty short, then you have to shift to third fairly soon out of a corner. We'll talk about the 85 here in a minute, which he thought was better, and that gearing is a little bit different. So with 1451 with Grayson, what I would probably do is try to go to a 1449 or a 1450 and try to stretch out second gear a little bit longer. So good information there. All right, so suspension, not a lot of bumps here today at Glen Helen, but there are some other kids on the track. Hopping on this thing, we set the sag to 80 millimeters. That's something key for you guys out there. They want it between 75 to 80, so we dropped it to 80. You're usually a WP suspension guy. Now you're on some KYB stuff. How's that feel?
It's pretty good, but there's not a lot of bumps today here at Glen Helen. It's smooth coming in, so it's a little soft, I feel like, but it's all right.
So going on to a larger wheel, something that you can adapt to fairly soon if you give yourself a couple days. Obviously, you might be racing these here in the future.
Yeah, I think I could adapt to it pretty quick.
It's tough for him to sit on it a little bit. He's a little bit tippy-toe, so you say it feels a little tall when you're riding.
Yeah, it's because the wheels were big, so it makes it it feels a lot different.
All right, moving on to the 85. Immediately, I just watched him ride, and I could tell that he's a little bit more comfortable with the 85 being it lower to the ground. So, Grayson, once you got on it, I feel like when you were riding and you were pushing down on the bike, you're moving around on the bike a little bit more, a little bit better for your size?
Yes, it felt a lot better.
So tell us about coming from the large wheel to the short or the smaller wheel, going into the corners. What's the difference?
I feel like I can charge harder on the small wheel because I feel like I have more control over the bike. So it just, it's more comfortable.
Power-wise, you actually felt like the YZ85 standard was a little bit better because second gear pulled a little bit farther?
Yes, and yeah.
So with this gearing, this is a 1446 gearing. So each gear will be stretched out a little bit longer. He could use second gear a little bit more. Third gear spacing seemed a little bit better for him as well. Cockpit-wise, was it the same field or actually felt a little bit better than this?
It was the same feeling.
So when you guys get a Yamaha YZ85 or a large wheel, you can totally adjust the mounts. You can actually drop the bar down and customize it for you. But I actually think it's better as you have a growing boy like Grayson here. You have the option to move to a larger wheel now without having to purchase a GYTR aftermarket kit to get some larger wheels. These kids at their age, they don't need all the horsepower that they can get on a 125. That's just way too much. He'll be in the middle between a large wheel and a 125, and it's almost safer, at least for me, and I'm a parent. I would rather have him outgrow this large wheel than put him on a 125 where there's more power. It's much bigger than this, and let's try to keep our kids safe. So if you see some kids and other media outlet videos that are a little bit larger, that's okay. I'd rather keep them safe, and I'm sure mom and dad would probably keep you safe too. You don't want you hurt. All right, guys, that does it here. So don't forget, Racer X publication, 12 issues, $30. Get yourself a free gift. Keep kids on dirt bikes, and don't forget to stay in school. Do good in school, kids, right? How's your schoolwork?
Pretty good.
Are you A's?
Yeah, most of the time.
Really?
Yeah.
A's and B's, impressive. Stay tuned. Email me, Kris@KeeferInkTesting.com. If you have any questions about these bikes, we're happy to help you. See you on the next test.